Yehovah Eloheinu Zvaot. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Please fill me with the Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name, amen. We'll start with the Shema, listen and obey. Children of Yehovah, pay careful attention and respond. Yehovah is our power and authority. Yehovah works in unity with himself, and you shall act upon your love to Yehovah with your power and authority, with your thoughts and mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Hand, behold, nail, behold. Leviticus Chapter 13. Yehovah said to Moshe and Aaron, if someone develops on his skin a swelling, a scab, or bright spot which could develop into the disease Zarat, he is to be brought to Aaron the Kohen or to one of his sons who are Kohanim. The Kohen is to examine the sore on his skin. If the hair in the sore has turned white, the sore appears to go deep into the skin, it is Zarat. And after examining him, the Kohen is to declare him unclean. If the bright spot on his skin is white, but it does not appear to go deep into the skin, and its hair has not turned white, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine him again, and if the sore appears the same as before and has not spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the Kohen is to examine him again, and if the sore has faded and hasn't spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to declare him clean. It is only a scab. So he is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads further on the skin after he has been examined by the Kohen and declared clean, he is to let himself be examined yet again by the Kohen. The Kohen will examine him, and if he sees that the scab has spread on the skin, then the Kohen will declare him unclean. It is Zarat. If a person has Zarat, he is to be brought to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that there is a white swelling on the skin, which has turned the hair white and inflamed the flesh in the swelling, then it is a chronic Zarat on the skin. And the Kohen is to declare him unclean. He is not to isolate him because he has already clear that he is unclean. If the Zarat breaks out all over the skin, so that as far as the Kohen can see, the person with Zarat has sores everywhere on his body from his head to his feet, then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that the Zarat has covered his entire body, he is to pronounce the person with the sores clean. It has all turned white, and he is clean. But if one day inflamed flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. The Kohen will examine the inflamed flesh and declare him unclean. The inflamed flesh is unclean. It is Zarat. However, if the inflamed flesh again turns white, he is to come to the Kohen. The Kohen will examine him, and if the sores have turned white, then the Kohen will declare clean the person with the sores. He is clean. If a person has on his skin a boil that heals in such a way that in place of the boil there is a white swelling or a reddish white bright spot, it is to be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine it, and if he sees that it appears to be more than skin deep and its hair has turned white, then the Kohen will pronounce him unclean. The disease is Zarat, has been broken out in the boil. But if the Kohen looks at it and it doesn't see any white hair in it, and isn't more than skin deep but appears faded, the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. If it spreads on the skin, the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is the disease. But if the bright spot stays where it was and has not spread, it is the scar of a boil, and the Kohen is to declare him clean. If someone has on his skin a burn caused by fire, and the inflamed flesh where it is burned has become a bright spot, reddish, white, or white, then the Kohen is to examine it, and if he sees the hair in the bright spot has turned white, and that it appears to go deeper than the skin around it, it is Zarat. It has broken out in the burn, and the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from Zarat. But if the Kohen examines and sees no white hair in the bright spot, and it is no more than skin deep but looks faded, then the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 days. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine him. If it has spread on the skin, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a sore from the tzara'at. But if the bright spot stays where it was and has not spread on the skin, but appears to be faded, it is a swelling due to the burn. The Kohen is to declare him clean, because it is only a scar from the burn. If a man or a woman has a sore on the head or a man on his beard, then the Kohen is to examine the sore. If he sees it appears to be deeper than the skin around it, with the yellow thin hair in it, then the Kohen is to declare him unclean. It is a crusted area, a tzara'at of the head or beard. If the Kohen examines the diseased crusted area and sees that it appears not to go deeper than the skin around it and without any black hair in it, then the Kohen is to isolate for 7 days the person with the diseased crusted area. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine the sore, and if he sees the crusted area hasn't spread, that it has no yellow hair in it, and that it is crusted area not deeper than the skin around it, then the person is to be shaved, except for the crusted area itself. And the Kohen is to isolate him for 7 more days. On the seventh day, the Kohen is to examine the crusted area, and if he sees that the crusted area has not spread on the skin and does not appear to go deeper than the skin around it, then the Kohen is to declare him clean. He is to wash his clothes and be clean. But if the crusted area spreads after his purification, then the Kohen is to examine him, and if he sees that the crusted area is spread on the skin, the Kohen is not to look for yellow hair. He is unclean. But if the crusted area's appearance doesn't change and black hair grows up in it, then the crusted area itself is healed. He is clean, and the Kohen is to declare him clean. If a man or woman has bright spots on his skin, bright white spots, then the Kohen is to examine them. If he sees that the bright spots on the skin are dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. He is clean. If a man's hair has fallen from his scalp, he is bald, but he is clean. If his hair has fallen off the front part of his head, he is forehead bald, but he is clean. But if the bald scalp or forehead, there is a reddish white sore, it is tzara'at, breaking out on his scalp or forehead. Then the Kohen is to examine him. If he sees that there is reddish white swelling on his bald scalp or forehead, appearing like tzara'at on the rest of his body, he is a person with tzara'at. He is unclean. The Kohen must declare him unclean. The sore is on his head. Everyone who has tzara'at sores is to wear torn clothes and unbound hair, cover his upper lip, and cry, "Unclean! Unclean!" As long as he has sores, he will be unclean, since he is unclean. He must live in isolation. He must live outside the camp. When tzara'at infects an article of clothing, whether it is woolen or a linen garment, on the threads or woven inner parts of the inner linen or wool, or in a hide made of leather, then if the stain of the garment, hide, threads, woven in parts, leather items is greenish or reddish, it is infected of tzara'at, and it is to be shown to the Kohen. The Kohen is to examine the stain and isolate the article that has infection on it 7 days. On the seventh day he is to examine the stain. If the stain has spread on the garment, threads, woven inner parts, or leather, whatever is use, the infection of the contagion, tzara'at, the garment is unclean. He is to burn the garment, threads, woven inner parts, either wool or linen, or item of leather having the infection, for it is contagious tzara'at, and it must be burned up completely. But if, when the Kohen examines it, he sees that the infection has not spread on the garment or in the threads, woven inner parts, or leather item, then the Kohen is to order that article having the infection be washed and isolated 7 more days. The Kohen is to examine it after the stain has been washed. And if he sees that the stain has not changed color, then, even though the stain has not spread, it is unclean. You are to burn it up completely. It is rotten. No matter whether the spot on the outside or the inside, if the Kohen examines it and sees that the stain has faded after being washed, then he is to tear the stain out of the garment, leather, threads, or woven inner parts. If it appears again in the garment, threads, woven inner parts, or leather item, it is contagious. and you are to burn it up completely, the article that has the stain. But if the infection is gone from the garment, threads, woven inner parts, and leather item that you wash, then it is washed a second time, it will be clean. Then the law concerning infections of Zerat in a garment or wool or linen or inner threads or woven parts or any leather item, when to declare it clean and when to declare it unclean. How can we learn to love our Creator after reading Leviticus Chapter 13? We can trust that Yehova has clear instructions for those with disease and how the Kohen directs them with what they should do. Know that Yehova ordered the Kohen to verify specific areas of the body as well as clothing. How can we love others as Yeshua loves us? We can teach others to trust that Yeshua is our ultimate healer. Bear one another's burdens. We can go first to Yehova for healing, trusting in Him. Produce spiritual fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. In the Aaronic blessing, Yehova will kneel before you presenting gifts, and He will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yehova will illuminate the wholeness of His being toward you, bringing order, and He will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yehova will lift up the wholeness of His being and look upon you and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Yah va'richacha, Yehova va'yishmirecha, Ya'ir, Yehova panav elecha, va'chanicha, Yisa, Yehova panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. May Yehova bless you and keep you. May Yehova make His face shine on you and show you His favor. May Yehova lift up His face toward you and give you peace.